Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the regular meeting of Council to order. Recognize Ms. Sheila Gurry will be our clerk today. I'd ask, given the time, for a procedural motion to proceed in camera. Moved Councillor Bonner, seconded Councillor Thorpe. Any discussion? All those in favor? I'd like to first recognize that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Nanaimo First Nation. Our clerk tonight will be Ms. Sheila Gurry. Tonight's regular meeting of Council will be held in accordance with the Community Charter and Council Procedure Bylaw 2018, number 7272. And as the province is now in phase 3 of the reopening plan, question period has been reinstated for those in attendance for agenda items only. The question period sign-up sheet is on the table by the double doors to my left. If during the meeting any member of the gallery has a question regarding an agenda item, please write down your name and the agenda item on the sheet. At the start of question period, I will call those up who have signed to the podium to address Council. And the first item on the agenda is the introduction of late items, Ms. Gurry, and we have several tonight.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Agenda item 12C, adding correspondence from the Old City Quarter Association and the following delegations. Number 1, Matthew Rosenthal, Old City Quarter Association, and number 2, Monica Briggs, Old City Quarter Association. And agenda item 12D, adding delegations from James Irwin, James E. Irwin Architects, and Bev Winjack from LADR Landscape Architects. And that's it, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Motion for adoption of the agenda is amended. Moved Councillor Hemmons, seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favour? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Motion for adoption of the minutes is circulated. Moved Councillor Bonner, seconded Councillor Armstrong. All those in favour? Any opposed? Motion carries. Before I go to the Mayor's report, I just want to state for the benefit of those watching at home, only 5 members of Council are present in the chamber tonight in light of COVID and everything else, but the other 4 members of Council are attending via the glories of the ether and the Zoom. I just don't want people to think that their council members aren't doing their job, but keeping in mind health, everybody's doing what they can. And speaking of COVID, I don't want to belabor this point, and I think it's fair to say there is a great deal of frustration in the country and this city in particular around the continuance of COVID restrictions, and people are getting frustrated. But I do want to mention in particular that city staff are on the front lines, I think, and particularly those who are involved with our aquatic centres, with NAC, with the Bevan Pool. A number of people have faced behaviour that I will politely describe as rude and not acceptable. And I'm going to simply ask tonight that everyone consider that the staff on the front end who are trying to do their best to ensure public health and safety and compliance with appropriate provincial directions and mandates should not be abused. These are difficult times for everybody, and many people are suffering in various ways and for various reasons. And so I'm asking for a little kindness, and I use that as a lead into what I want to discuss next tonight. It is with sadness that I convey that a valuable member of the Parks, Recreation and Culture team for the City of Nanaimo passed away suddenly on January 25th, 2022. Although he was only 34 years old and had been an employee for 15 years, Taz Hardwick was a dedicated public servant to this city. He had been originally hired as a lifeguard instructor, moved on to be an aquatics coordinator, and has been a community recreation coordinator for the last 2 years, working in the adult programs portfolio. I think it's fair to say it's hard for any of us to imagine what it is to lose somebody so suddenly at the age of 34, and someone who, as I have said, has given his working life to public service. I am told he was always the first to lend a hand to his colleagues and genuinely loved his career with the city and in the recreation department. And so on behalf of Council tonight and the citizens of Nanaimo, I wish to extend a heartfelt thanks and our deepest condolences to his wife, Danielle, daughter Emily, and his family. Life is tough enough as it is, but when sudden tragedy like this occurs, it must be unbelievable for that family as they suffer through this grief. And so our thoughts are with all of you at this very difficult time. On the mundane side, I would remind everyone that pet owners are required to renew their dogs' licenses. New license fees and charges have come into effect to align with our newly adopted animal responsibility bylaw. Fees for sterilized dogs will remain at $30 with a $5 discount for payments made before February 28th of the licensing year, while the license fees for unsterilized dogs is $60 with a $10 discount for early payments. So please, folks, comply and get your payments in early and you'll get a bit of a break. I also want to repeat an announcement that was made since the last council meeting, and that is that work is starting on a new rental building in North Nanaimo that will provide affordable homes for people with a range of incomes. Located at 6010 Hammond Bay Road, the 4-story wood frame building will provide 53 1- and 2-bedroom rental homes geared toward low and moderate income individuals, families, seniors, and people living with disabilities. The development will include outdoor green space with walking paths and meeting areas, and the building's ground floor will have communal space for tenants. It represents a partnership between the federal and provincial governments, Nanaimo Affordable Housing, and the City of Nanaimo. And it is, in light of what is still happening in our marketplace and with the number of homeless people and people who are not securely and appropriately housed in our city, very good news indeed and something to be celebrated. It is the kind of partnership and cooperation which will eventually, I hope, eliminate homelessness from our community. But it requires all hands on deck, and that's what this particular project represents. I have nothing further to add, but with respect to Rise and Report, I can report out on the following. At the in-camera meeting held on January 17th, 2022, Council rescinded the appointment of Barb Wardle as collector and assigned the duties and responsibilities of collector for the City of Nanaimo to Ms. Jamie Slater, Manager, Revenue Services. Want to offer congratulations to Ms. Slater and assure everyone that Barb Wardle, who comes from literally the first peoples originally of this community and along a family with a distinguished history here, has retired. She has not been chased out of office, and we're not rescinding her appointment with any malice, and we wish Barb well in her retirement. At the in-camera meeting held on January 17, 2022 as well, Council approved the following for 2022 Culture and Heritage Awards, and I'm delighted to announce that Brendan Tang will be receiving the Excellence in Culture Award. Bruce Halliday, well known from the Port Theatre, will receive the Honor in Culture Award, and Joy Bremner, a well-known activist in the Métis community in this city, will receive the Honor in Heritage Award. There will be an appropriate ceremony in due course that we hope will be as well attended as can be managed with whatever the rules may or may not be in place at that time. These are outstanding individuals, and I am delighted to congratulate all of them tonight on behalf of Council. We have no presentations, Ms. Gurry. We have a number of committee meetings that are just for receipt. And I'm asking now for a motion for adoption of consent items. Moved Councillor Bonner, seconded Councillor Armstrong. All those in favor?
Your Worship, I believe a member of Council, Councillor Thorpe, wishes to remove item 10C1, the bus shelter and bench strategy update. So that can be considered after you vote on the remaining consent items.
Certainly. Then we can vote on all the other items. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. No contrary. Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Your Worship. There we go. Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to pull this item briefly to ask a question of staff for my personal comfort and also clarification on behalf of some members of the public who I think were a little maybe confused is the word about the wording of the motion, which relates to having staff prepare a report with costing for a bus shelter strategy, a specific strategy. And I would, through you, ask Mr. Rudolph just to clarify that this does not imply that we are automatically pursuing this strategy, but simply getting information on it as a possible strategy. Am I correct in that, Mr. Rudolph?
Through the chair to Councillor Thorpe, yes, we're tasked with the responsibility to prepare a thorough analysis of our options with respect to bus shelters in the city, And so we're not implementing a strategy. We're looking at the options that are available. There's a lot of moving parts with this. I think we went over this at our Governance and Priorities Committee with respect to partnerships and different types of bus shelters, the contracts, the financial liability, the sponsorships, all those types of things. So I'm not reading too much into that. Is that we have another 2 years with our contract on this to forge a better and a more permanent strategy for the long term. The return on investment on this type of thing is not necessarily something that we're also looking at that, but no, there is no strategy that wasn't explained at the GPC. So
No.
I can't answer that question unless I understand what the question really is.
Well, that was my understanding, but I've had members of the public who I guess either watched or heard about the GPC under the impression that we had decided to go down a certain path.
No.
And I don't think that is the case. So am I correct then, just as a follow-up, Your Worship, that staff will be coming back to us eventually with a report on various options for dealing with bus shelters?
That's correct, Your Worship. Through the Councillor Thorpe, we've as a city are continuing with the current path until we have enough time to develop a future path. So if I can say that correctly, so we've not altered the current agreement, we've extended it, and we will be coming back to council with options with respect to moving forward for another 15, 20, 25 years.
Right, thank you. So that clarifies things for me and hopefully for members of the public. I guess that being the case, though, I'm still not sure I can support this motion because I honestly don't see that it's necessary when staff are already going to be coming to us with options and strategies. However, I think Councillor Armstrong had something to add.
Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, I was just going to ask a question because it's just with the city and the regional district. Is there any thought of putting BC Transit in with it as well so they can share their experiences in other communities? I wasn't at the GPC because I had another proceeding I had to be at, so.
Your Worship, through the chair, I think maybe the word that's causing trouble is costing. It's really prepare a report for a bus shelter strategy. So costing would be part of it. And so would revenues, by the way. So the fiscal implications with that, as well as the operational implications. I wasn't aware that there was a concern around this, but that is the motion that was put forward. But I mean, the staff understand the intent is to come back after a period of time, now that we've extended the contract to look at additional options. So, or one of the options would be to continue with the kind of current arrangement that we do have. There are other options that might be out there.
As follow-up, I heard the same thing as Councillor Thorpe as well, that the way it looks is that we've already chosen an option and what's the costing, because it doesn't ask for options, it just says a bus shelter strategy. So there was a lot of concern I heard, and on Facebook as well, that we'd already made up our minds and it hadn't actually been fully looked at. So I agree, I think it's the wording. It kind of misleads people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Martman. Or Ms. Gurry.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor Martman. Just quickly, I think that's a fair point about the wording. It's my understanding from being at the meeting that this was intended to form one of the options in the business case process, in the business planning process coming forward this year, which will then look into 2023, 2024 options, because like Mr. Rudolph said, there is still 2 years now with the contract. And as well, I just wanted to note Mr. Sims is online too to add any information that we might be missing. But my understanding from the motion was originally it said September to come back with a report, but then with further talk with Mr. Rose, it was going to be form part of the business planning process and business cases options.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Martman and then Mr. Sims if he has anything further to comment, or there's a question coming from Councillor Martman for Mr. Sims. Councillor Martman. Unfortunately, you're talking, but we can't hear you, even though it shows you're unmuted. There.
Am I okay now? Thank you. I had the wrong button pressed. And so what I wanted to say was, if memory serves me correctly, part of the importance of this motion was a partnership with the Regional District of Nanaimo and the Sustainable Procurement Principles. I agree that I think costing's just one portion of it, and maybe we could move the motion with the friendly amendment of that council direct staff to prepare a report for bus shelter strategy co-created, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll move that if I have a seconder.
If we could actually have it like as an amendment, that would be great. I would suggest the wording that you have provided, Councillor Martman, but possibly as one option. So remove the word costing for a bus shelter strategy option, co-created, et cetera.
Yes.
Okay. And Councillor Armstrong seconded that amendment. Okay.
Councillor Armstrong.
And just to speak to that for a moment, I think it was really important was the idea of let's think creative, let's be innovative, and let's see what comes up with sustainable procurement principles. There may be a variety of options we use in the strategy. And yes, I agree with Councillor Armstrong on social media. They were putting out all kinds of ideas, actually. And so, yes, that's why I'm all for this. Let's look at what we can do differently. Thank you.
Mr. Sims, did you want to comment, or you're okay?
Thanks, Your Worship. No, I think Mr. Rudolph and Ms. Gurry's covered everything. It's the intent would be, as has been discussed, to come back with a series of options on what could we do to provide transit stop amenities such as benches and shelters.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any other hands or questions. All those in favor of the amendment and those opposed? And now vote on the motion as amended.
I believe Councillor Brown, you're opposed to the amendment. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Brown, thank you, missed you. And now on the main motion as amended, all those in favor? And any contrary? I'm not seeing anybody. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Thorpe, for raising that. Before I get on to item 11, I just want to mention that with respect to item 10B1, an informational report that staff has prepared will be available on the website, I believe, tomorrow, Ms. Gurry. Is that correct?
That is correct. It will be added as a supplemental item, and the report prepared by Mr. Lindsay addresses the first part of the motion. Yeah.
Exactly, and the second part will be addressed in a further report related, and we'll come back to the Finance and Audit Committee as appropriately.
Yes, and just of note, because of the request for funding to the end of March, with the report coming to the council meeting at the end of February, it might be past the point. Just there's some timing issues with that, but the information report that Mr. Lindsay prepared will be added as a supplemental item.
Thank you very much. We have no delegations unrelated to agenda items. The next is reports. And that the first is the Regional District of Nanaimo Regional Water and Watershed Protection Service Amendment Bylaw number 1556.05/2021. And Ms. Mercer is going to introduce that. Ms. Mercer, I can see you on the screen, looking rather small, I might add, but barely.
That's okay. Thank you, Your Worship. So as you know, historically, the RDN has collected funding for this service through a parcel tax, and the parcel tax funds costs for advancing knowledge and protection of drinking water sources and watersheds. So in 2021, the parcel tax was $12 per property, and the city collects this money from taxpayers through water user fees. So for 2022, the RDN is proposing a $2 increase to $14 per property, and in 2023, another $2 increase to $16 per property. So in order for these changes to take place, the RDN requires consent of at least 2/3 of the local service participants prior to adoption by the RDN board. So we're looking for council's consent to adopt the bylaw as it is amended. And if council chose to adopt this change, staff will notify the RDN of your approval.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bonner, you're moving the recommended motion. Councillor Armstrong is seconding. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any contrary? None. Motion carries. The next is the...
Your Worship, sorry, Councillor Turley is opposed to that.
Sorry, Councillor Turley, your little hand goes up in that lighted area of your room and it's hard to see. You'll have to start swinging with your left instead of your right. Item B, 2021-2025 Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw. Again, Ms. Mercer, please.
Thank you. So throughout the year, items come up that were not originally included in the financial plan that was adopted, that needs to be adopted by May 15th. So no amendments have been made to the 2021 to 2025 financial plan bylaw since it was adopted on May 10th of 2021. So the purpose of this report is to provide council with information regarding the changes to the budget between May 10th and December 31st. So this report outlines additions that were made to the budget. So council has been made aware of most of the changes that are outlined in this report through reports to various meetings throughout the year. So, and the ones that didn't come to council consisted of smaller dollar private contributions and grants. We received several changes due to private contribution monies being received. We had a number of property purchases, and we had 3 projects that were accelerated. So the Nanaimo Search and Rescue Operations Center was moved from 2022 to 2021, and the artificial turf infield project that was scheduled in 2023 was canceled, and that money was used in 2021 to fund the Soroxon Stadium Plaza. And the last one was the Rotary Bowl oval track renewal, and that was moved from 2024 to 2021. And our 2 largest changes were the Stadium District project, as well as the 2021 Strengthening Communities grant. And both of those were $2.5 million each. And council was apprised of both those through reports and presentations during the year. Appendix A outlines all of the changes that were made between existing projects that crossed funds. So if a project had funding in an operating project that was moved to a capital project, that would be identified in Appendix A. So we'll try to answer any questions that council may have regarding this report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bonner.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd recommend that the Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw 2022 number 7320.02 to amend the 2021-2025 financial plan pass first reading.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any contrary? Councillor Brown, I didn't see you move, or are you frozen? Are you in favor? Yes, thank you. Very good. Motion carries. Councillor Bonner.
Thank you, Your Worship. That Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw 2022 number 7320.02 pass second reading.
Second.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Councillor Bonner.
Thank you, Your Worship. And that Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw 2022 number 7320.02 pass third reading.
Second.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None, motion carries. Thank you. The next is the Old City Quarter Business Improvement Area. Again, Ms. Mercer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So in 2021, the city was approached by the Old City Quarter Association to reestablish a business improvement area as a council initiative in the Old City Quarter of the downtown area. So staff have worked with the Old City Quarter Association to draft up the bylaw that's on tonight's agenda, as well as the petition package and all the required advertising. So the Old City Quarter Association has modified their map, and it now includes both Milton and Prideaux streets in their BIA area. And this change has added 22 properties to their BIA area for a total of 87 leviable properties. So the highlights of this bylaw are the BIA is for 5 years, and the 2022 levy is $50,000, and that is made up of a fixed fee of $270.72 per property, and then a variable fee, and that's based on the assessed value over $275,000. And there is a maximum on this variable fee of $6,497.15. So the levy, the $50,000 levy, will be increased by 2.5% per year for the term of the bylaw. And there are no matching grants from the city included in this. So our next steps are the petition against package will be sent to all business class properties within the BIA area. And so if they don't want the levy, the property owner must complete and submit the petition against form. To be successful, this petition must be properly signed by less than the majority of the owners representing at least 1/2 of the value of the parcels. So that's land and improvement assessed value, which are liable to be specifically charged within that area. So the due date for responses is March 25th, and staff will be back with a report on April 25th council meeting with the outcome of the petition. So that's what's before you tonight.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mercer. Ms. Gurry?
Yes, Your Worship. I believe that the delegations are online, but they were just here to answer any questions. I don't believe they have a presentation.
Okay.
So I just wanted to let council be aware of that.
Mr. Rosenthal, Ms. Briggs, if that's not the case and you wish to speak, let me know. Otherwise, any questions for Ms. Mercer? Seeing none. Councillor Bonner, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd recommend that the Old City Quarter Business Improvement Area Bylaw 2022 number 7339 to establish a business improvement area in the Old City Quarter pass first reading.
Seconded, Councillor Hemmons. All those in favor? Any contrary? Seeing none. Councillor Bonner.
Thank you, Worship. That the Old City Quarter Business Improvement Area Bylaw 2022 number 7339 pass second reading.
Seconded, Councillor Armstrong. Yes, you may.
It's my mic.
Thank you. I'll be voting opposed to this because, as I've always done, I don't believe in the petition against, I believe for the petition for, so I will be opposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other speakers on the motion? If not, all those in favor? Any contrary? Councillor Armstrong. Motion carries. Councillor Bonner.
Thank you, Worship. That Old City Quarter Business Improvement Area Bylaw 2022 number 7339 pass third reading.
Seconded, Councillor Hemmons. All those in favor? And opposed? Councillor Armstrong. Motion carries. Councillor Bonner.
Thank you, Worship. And I would direct motion to direct staff to proceed with notice of intention to conduct a local area service on a council initiative subject to a petition against process and direct staff to carry out the petition against.
Seconded, Councillor Hemmons. All those in favor? And opposed? Councillor Armstrong. Motion carries. Thank you. Councillor Bonner.
Your Worship, he read 4 and 5 together, so you're done that one now.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Yes, quite. We're on to development permit application number DP 11784900 Island Highway North. And Mr. Holm, good evening.
Yes, good evening, Your Worship and Council. And this is a development permit for a property that Council will be familiar with. The address is 4900 Island Highway North. And if you could bring up the context map attachment B on the overhead, that would be helpful. Thank you very much. You can see the subject property outlined there. This is an application from James E. Irwin Architect, Inc. on behalf of 1960400 Ontario Limited, and the proposal is to permit an automobile sales development on the property. The site is formerly the location of Long Lake Nursery and is familiar to Council as it was rezoned by Council in 2019 to allow automobile sales and rental as a site-specific use. The subject property is designated community corridor, corridor within the official community plan and is zoned community corridor core 3 in the city zoning bylaw. As you can see, the property is centrally located in the Long Lake neighborhood. It's in close proximity to Long Lake, and it's in close proximity to the southeast intersection of the Island Highway and Rutherford Road. And if you could please bring up attachment D, the site plan and parking plan. I'll just briefly describe what's proposed here. The applicant's proposing to construct 3 new commercial buildings for automobile sales on the property, including Building A, which is proposed as a Subaru car dealership, Building B, which is proposed as a Porsche car dealership, and Building C, which is proposed to provide service for both dealerships. As you can see, Building A and B are sited close to the west property line, facing the Island Highway and the frontage road along the highway, and Building C is facing Wills Road to the north. And if you could please bring up the building renderings, attachment F, that would be helpful, thank you. Both buildings A and B have been designed to accommodate the corporate requirements of Subaru and Porsche. As you can see here, both buildings will be visible from the Island Highway and will include high windows to illuminate and animate the street frontage. Exterior finishes, as you can see here, are comprised of contemporary materials, including aluminum, composite, precast concrete panels, and metal siding. The proposal includes variances, which are requested to reduce the minimum flanking side yard setback from 3 meters to 2.4 meters, and also to waive the minimum building height requirement in the corridor zone, the applicable zone, a minimum 2-story buildings required, and also to increase the maximum combined fence and retaining wall height from 1.8 to 2.8 meters in one area. Happy to take any questions. I also know that there is a delegation that's prepared to answer any questions regarding the proposal as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Holm. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, Mr. Holm, the staff report indicated it didn't go to design panel due to COVID, and I was just trying to understand the timeline on that, because the design panel, sort of where it didn't meet, was quite some time ago. So if I could just provide some clarity for me, that'd be appreciated.
Yes, certainly, through Your Worship, happy to do that. Yeah, just briefly, the application was received in January of 2020. Following rezoning in July of completion of the rezoning application in July of 2019. So January 2020, development permit application was received, and in March of 2020, it was scheduled to go to design panel, and the meeting was canceled due to COVID. Subsequently, comprehensive letter was sent out along with staff comments on the proposed design, and the applicant responded following that with design revisions. I can expand if required, but.
Thank you, Mr. Holm. I understand we have a delegation, James Irwin, James Irwin Architects, Inc., and Bev Winjack of LADR Landscape Architects, and they are just for questions, or do they wish to address? And I'm going to go to Councillor Bonner before we get to them, but.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Mr. Holmes, if I may. When this rezoning came to us, has the layout of the property and the buildings changed at all since the original ones that we saw at the rezoning application?
Through Your Worship, I have to pull that information up. I don't have it at my fingertips, but this is consistent with the concept that was put forward through the rezoning. Generally consistent.
Yeah, I just thought that building C was a bit longer and there was less parking lot, but maybe I was mistaken. The other thing is some of the items that were in there in terms of water runoff, stormwater runoff. They were had tanks that were installed. All of that is taking place as well?
Yes, through your worship, to Councilor Bronner's question, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
There's a bioswale proposed for the property, and it does comply with the city's, as proposed, complies with the city's standards, engineering standards with regard to managing stormwater.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Your Worship, they are just here to answer any questions that council might have for them.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bonner then.
Let me get back to that screen. Thank you, Your Worship. Recommend that council issue a development permit number DP 1178 for an automobile sales development at 4900 Island Highway North with the following variances to reduce the flanking side yard setback from 3.0 meters to 2.4 meters along the north property line, waive the minimum building height requirement, and increase the maximum combined height of a fence and retaining wall in the side yard setback from 1.8 meters to 2.8 meters.
Seconded.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. Any discussion, Councillor Brown?
Thank you, Your Worship. I won't be supporting this. I do think it should go to the design panel. The design panel often, I find, provides really good commentary on how an application design can better integrate or better meet the intention of the development permit guidelines. And I think there was plenty of time to incorporate that over the last year. So I won't be supporting it, and I think it should go to the design panel. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Martman?
Thank you. Just in response to Councillor Brown, I would normally concur, but I think that the variances that are being looked at now, like it's the opposite. We're waiving the minimum building height, but increasing the height of the fence. I think those are probably to go with the style of it. And when we first approved this going into being a car dealership at the beginning of our term, I said I wanted something on this land before the 4 years was up. So I just hope they can get it built fast. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martman. Councillor Brown?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just feel the need to respond that for clarity, the design panel doesn't just comment on the variances, they comment on all the development permit guidelines and also bring their professional expertise as architects and landscape architects to the improvement to the design. So a little more in depth than just with respect to the variances. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Not seeing any further questions, debate. All those in favor and opposed? Councillor Brown and Councillor Gesselbrock. Motion carries. Thank you very much. The next is item E, 521 Hecat Street, amendment of project under the Revitalization Tax Exemption Bylaw. And that's Mr. Corson. Please.
Good evening, Your Worship. We're seeking Council's direction to amend the tax exemption agreement for a 10-unit project at 521 Hecat Street. The applicant has already been accepted into the program by Council, but due to delays in getting the building permit initially, now well underway, and they've had some delays, of course, with the supply chain due to COVID. So they're requesting that the dates be moved back to accommodate that. Staff is supportive of the request. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Corson. Any questions for Mr. Corson? Not seeing any. Councillor Bonner, if somebody wants to move the recommended motion?
Sure.
Councillor Bonner does, seconded Councillor Armstrong. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? And any contrary? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much. The next is Covenant Amendment Application number CA 16-3789 and 3801 Shenton Road. And that's Mr. Holm.
And, thank you again, Your Worship. This application is to amend a covenant for property that was previously rezoned by Council, and the property is located on Shenton Road and at Diver Lake, And the application is from Bob Wall, RW Bob Wall LTD on behalf of Diver Lake Investments LTD. And the proposed amendment would allow a proposed mixed-use residential and office development on the property. As I mentioned, the covenant was registered on the property through rezoning. That was in 2017. The covenant included a number of conditions, including that the property be consolidated prior to development permit being approved on the property. At that time, through the rezoning, the design had not, the concept at that point had not advanced enough to confirm that the property, which is constrained by Diver Lake and is relatively narrow. At the time of the rezoning, the design had not advanced far enough to confirm that the property could be developed under the Core 2 zoning that applies to the property without consolidation of the two lots. It consists of two titles currently. So the covenant was put on title requiring consolidation of the two properties. Subsequently now the applicant has advanced the design significantly and has determined or has been able to confirm that development can occur on two separate titled properties with some shared access and parking that allow them to function supportively yet independently of each other. So the proposal as presented consists of at 3801 Shenton Road is 15 residential dwelling units, including 2 live-work units. And at 3789 Shenton Road is proposed to consist of a medical dental office with 3 residential dwelling units above. So a nice mixed-use development on the lots is proposed. This is again a covenant amendment request, and the request is specifically to remove the requirement that the lots be consolidated prior to issuance of development permit. As I mentioned, the applicants demonstrated that the development on the property is viable without the consolidation, can be supported technically, and that we'll be advancing a development permit forward for council's consideration in the near future. The request tonight, however, is to seek direction to proceed with public notification, which is required under council's consideration of covenant amendment application policy. And if council were to approve the recommendation on the agenda tonight, staff would proceed with notification and regarding the proposed covenant amendment, and subsequently as well bring forward a development permit application for the property. I know the applicant is available as a delegation. I'm happy to take any questions if council has any. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Holm. Councillor Armstrong. Seconded Councillor Hemmons.
Your Worship, I'm just wondering if the delegation wishes to speak or no?
I got the impression from Mr. Holm that unless...
Oh, just for questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Hayes, did you wish to say anything tonight?
Only if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much.
It has been moved and seconded, I believe, yes.
Yes, and I'm just looking to see if there's anyone seeking debate on this. No? All those in favor? And any contrary? Seeing none, carries unanimously. Thank you very much, and thank you, Ms. Hayes, for coming. It's a great way to spend a Monday night. The next item are bylaws. Zoning Amendment Bylaw 2021, number 4500.186. Councillor Bonner.
Thank you, Worship. I recommend that zoning amendment bylaw 2021 number 4500186.186 to regulate short-term rentals be adopted.
Seconded.
Seconded Councillor Armstrong. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Councillor
Your Worship,
Bonner.
Councillor Bonner, Councillor Brown, I believe, is opposed.
Sorry, opposed? Yes, sorry. The next is Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw 2021 number 6500.042. Councillor Bonner.
Thank you, Worship. I recommend that Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw 2021 number 6500.042 to redesignate 54, 55, 65, 66, 69, 70, and 73 Prideaux Street, and 503, 531, 605, 619, and 685 Comox Road on the future land use map number 1, plan map number 1, from neighborhood to urban node, and the text amendment from section 4.1.2 land use designations of the Old City Quarter Neighborhood Concept Plan be adopted.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe.
Ask me to do that again.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Councillor Bonner, the next is the official community plan amendment bylaw 2021 number 6500.043. Once more with feeling, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. That official community plan amendment bylaw 2021 number 6500.043 to redesignate 3679 Shenton Road on the future land use plan map 1 from light industrial to corridor be adopted.
Seconded, Councillor Hemmons. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Councillor Bonner.
Thank you, Worship. And I recommend that the off-street parking regulations amendment bylaw 2021 number 7266.01 to require 1 parking space for a short-term rental use be adopted.
Seconded.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Ms. Gurry, we have no notices of motion, but under other business, Councillor Brown is requesting to be able to attend the Planning Institute of British Columbia Annual Conference, July 5th to 8th, 2022, and it's his request in accordance with Council spending and amenities policy.
That's correct, Your Worship. So it's required that a council motion providing that permission to attend.
I believe Councillor Martman moved it. Councillor Armstrong is seconding it. Any opposed? Pardon me, I should say, all in favor? And any opposed? Not seeing any. Very good. Thank you very much. The next item is correspondence dated 2022, January 27th from the Regional District of Nanaimo, Complex Care Housing, the Regional District of Nanaimo. A copy is attached. And Councillor Bonner.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to make a motion that the correspondence be sent to Honorable Sheila Malcolmson, Minister of Health and Addictions, that requests that complex care housing for citizens who are desperately need more intensive care than supportive housing be built in Nanaimo. States that the City of Nanaimo supports the position of the Urban Mayor's Caucus and reiterates the need for significant investment along the entire housing continuum in Nanaimo as outlined in the Health and Housing Action Plan.
Before I ask for a seconder, because I would sense that this motion will carry, I'm going to make a suggestion and appreciate Councillor Bonner bringing this forward, that the letter in fact be directed to the Premier himself and Ministers Eby, who's responsible for housing, the Minister of Health, the Honourable Adrian Dix, with respect to the health side of this for complex care, and perhaps even the Minister of Finance, but I don't think it should go just to Minister Malcolmson. Councillor Armstrong, are you?
I would also add farming because it has a huge impact.
Solicitor General. Councillor
Send
Bonner?
it to the whole caucus if it'd get us more housing. I'm fine with those changes, Your Worship.
And yes, and our local, well, it'll be addressed to our local MLAs as well, or we'll CC it to them. We're writing to Cabinet after all. Is there a seconder for the motion, which includes a longer list of addressees? That's Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Bonner, do you wish to speak to it?
Only, and Your Worship, I think it's important that this council is behind what you have been saying to the province for quite some time. I think we're getting to a point now in our city where we need to take a more firmer stand and request that the housing and the supportive housing and complex care that we desperately need in this town be addressed. That's the reason we brought it forward, and we just wanted to piggyback on the great work that the RDN has done on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Armstrong?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of it, but I do have concerns about the model that they propose because it's not a secure facility. So that's just going to mean these people are going to be on our streets even more. So I am very, very much concerned, as are the police and mental health workers, about this new model. So just want to caution us on that, because that just means they come and they can leave as they please. So it's going to be concerning. Thank you.
Point taken, Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Himmons?
Thank you, Your Worship. Fully support the motion, and just want to add that Councillor Bonner and I worked very closely with our community partners for, almost 2 years, and I think that group in particular is just ready and waiting to say, okay, we're, if the city's going to lead a push, we're going to back you up. So I'm not sure if it would. I'm not going to make a motion that we CC them, but I just want to keep this at the front of everyone's minds, that this isn't just our fight. And not that it's a fight, but there are people behind us who are willing to reinforce this message. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Himmons. Councillor Thorpe?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll certainly support the motion, although I do share some of the concerns of Councillor Armstrong. But I think in fairness, we need to recognize, and I hope the public recognizes, that you, Your Worship, have been front and center in already sending messages to the provincial government about what we would like to see them do and what we're willing to support them in doing. And this is not a first letter, but it's a good reminder and a strong follow-up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bonner, did you wish to say something further?
Just further to Councillor Himmons' point, the agencies that exist in our town are doing a yeoman's work on this front, have a tremendous amount of data. And I think reaching out to them and getting some of the facts and the figures that might beef that letter up even more, I think is probably not a bad idea.
Thank you very much. From my perspective, I don't see any necessity to amend the motion. We can certainly copy the correspondence to all the appropriate agencies who participated in the Health and Housing Task Force and what has followed. I think it is important. I appreciate the kind words of council. But I think this council has been trying to raise this issue through various means for a very long time, and I'm certainly hopeful as we approach a throne speech tomorrow and a budget speech to follow a week later that the province will recognize in a sincere and tangible way the importance of this to our community. With respect to the comments around complex care, I think it's fair to say that it's a word that gives the province some options, and I appreciate that not every member of council may agree with me on this entirely, but I believe there is a portion of the population who live in our streets who are living in absolute misery, who would frankly be safer in secure facilities, but that's a question for another day. Right now, I think this letter is important. The fact that it represents a motion of council, which I think it's fair to say is going to pass, that it will hopefully carry some weight, along with, as the motion recognizes, the work of the BC Urban Mayors Caucus that represents 55% of the province's people, of which I'm a member, who have been lobbying long and hard on this issue. It is, as council well appreciates, and I'm saying this for the benefit of the public tonight, the single largest source of communication with the city, subject to the odd blip, which might include snowfall or something of that nature, or a CAT bylaw, as I call it, the Animal Responsibility Bylaw. The reality is this is what is on people's minds and on their lips and is of greatest concern. And it comes from a range of places, from fear and desperation, from hope and kindness and compassion, from anger, from a whole range of places in our community. But we are all in agreement that the lives of those in our streets are not lives that should be lived by any citizen in a modern 21st century democracy. And I don't want to go over the top in saying this, but I'm sincerely hopeful the province is listening, because, as I say, it is what people are talking about, what they're concerned about for whatever reasons, and it needs to be solved. So, if anyone wishes to say anything further, please do so. Otherwise, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Councillor Bonner, for bringing forward the motion tonight. I appreciate it. We have no question period. No one attended tonight in person, and I can understand, and I never thought I'd say this. I look forward to the days when we can return to council meetings where we actually will have people in the council chambers. So a motion for adjournment. Councillor Bonner, seconded Councillor Armstrong, beach Councillor Martman. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, and thank you to staff tonight and everyone who participated in this hybrid approach to good governance.
Good night, everyone.